Mama's Vocalocity here, and today I wanted to start sharing a story. Um, it was a trip that me and my husband took back in January, just this past January, and it was an unexpected trip, but it was an incredible trip. Um, and so I want to start sharing that specifically for family and friends who were praying for us and supporting us on this trip. Um, just to give a little history, my husband and I have been married for 8 years. And if you can't tell by my last name, it is not American. It is Nigerian. My husband is from Nigeria. And he came to this country, everyone's saying about 16 years, but I'm thinking it's probably between 12, maybe 15, maybe 13 to 16 years, somewhere in there. Anyways, apparently he has not been home for 16 years. When he came to this country, he was looking for a better life, and he just ended up staying here. And so he's been trying to get back home, but because of life and different things going on in life, he hasn't been able to go. So on December 30th, 2012, on top of that, I have never been to Nigeria. When we got married, we I did not meet my in-laws before we got married. It was just a decision that we decided to make, and we knew it was going to take a long time before we were able to go back home. So we just decided to get married. And so, um, anyways, on December 30th, my brother-in-law, who goes by the name Doctor because he is a doctor, that's the nickname that everyone calls him, he was in a terrible car accident on the way to the village. And I'll explain more about the village and all that later. But he was going back to the village. It was the holidays, it was Christmas, New Year's Eve, and him and his wife had been. They had been out, so they had left their 6 children in the village with my mother-in-law, whose name is Josephine. And so they were on their way back to pick up the children from the village, and they were in a terrible car accident. The car flipped over, um, and my sister-in-law was killed in the accident. And so when my husband found out this news, he told me. We were very devastated for them. Now, again, I have not met my in-law, so I had not met my brother-in-law, but I talked to him on the phone. And because my husband's been away from home for all these years, he had not met my brother-in-law's wife. Her name was Nonye. So our hearts were really heavy for the family. We didn't know what we could do to help, but we were feeling for them. And I knew that my husband needed to go home and be with them because of this horrific death. And so, in that amount of time, um, as we found out about the news, and then a few days later, we decided that we were both going to go. Um, what I can say about those few days was that me and my husband were extremely blessed. We were not financially prepared to take on a trip like this. We're talking about a few $1,000s just for plane tickets, and then all the accommodations and all of that, paying for food and all that stuff, being in that country, we were just not prepared for. So what ended up happening is that my mother helped me and my husband to be able to go. And I really was not expecting to go. Um, I knew that I wanted my husband to go, and I was going to find a way to get him on a plane so he could be there for his family, especially his brother. But I was not expecting to go. And just by the grace of God, this money was provided to us, and we were able to go. It took us probably a little less than a week to finally get plane tickets. I had to apply for an emergency visa. Um, and on top of that, the money for anything was not there. um, I am an adjunct professor, and so I get paid a certain amount of months every year. I don't get paid I don't get paid in the summertime. I don't get paid over Christmas break. And so I always have to save to get us through those times. So any money that I had was for savings for living until I went back to work, which was in the beginning of January. And so all of a sudden, all these expenses came up that we needed money for. I had to get shots to go on this trip, which I didn't even think about that, but I'm going to a third world country. This emergency visa, I mean, we needed it back immediately because we couldn't even we were lucky that I was able to apply for the visa without having a plane ticket. And we didn't want to apply for this visa and not get it in time and get plane tickets. So we had to do it reverse. I had to apply for the visa. Um, I had to take a picture to get a brand new not to get a brand new passport, but to get a picture for this emergency visa. Um, I had to go to the post office and pay buku dollars just to have it sent all the way to Washington, D.C. And that's where the Nigerian embassy was. So that was a tough thing. And the paperwork wasn't even filled out completely because we were doing everything so quickly. Um, when I had the post office mail my emergency visa and the application and all of that, I forgot to put money in there so that they can send it back immediately, and so I had to call them and try to figure that. I mean, it was just a ton of stuff, and we were just waiting and praying for that visa to come because that was the only way that I could go. And my parents really wanted us to go together. They didn't want my husband just to go by himself. They wanted us to go together. And so that was a really big deal. But we just had to trust God. We just had to trust God for the money. We had to trust God for the timing. And there was a lot of ups and downs that went on a week prior to us actually leaving. I think we purchased the plane tickets probably a couple of days before we left. So it was very quick. I had to prepare my kids for mommy and daddy being gone. Mommy has been gone on, tour with the gospel choir and different things like that. I was gone for 10 days for that. So they were kind of used to stuff like that with mommy being gone, but daddy was there. But this was going to be the first time mommy and daddy were going to be gone for a long period of time. So I'm the mom who, when I leave my kids with other people for, more than a couple of days, more than a weekend, I'm going to give you a set schedule of how their life is supposed to go. Whether you follow it or not, that's up to you. But kids have to have a schedule, and I wanted them to have as much consistency as they could with us being away. And so we were blessed because my mom lives right around the corner. My sister lives, 5 to 7 minutes away. We ended up asking one of my really good girlfriends to stay at our place with the kids, and she agreed to do that. And that was huge. When I think about it now, it just blesses my heart that she was willing to do that because I was gone for 10 days. And so the kids would go to my mom's house one day and then they go to my sister's house another day. But every night they got to sleep in their bed. They got to be in their house and have the security of that. And she just did an incredible, incredible job. So I don't want to talk too long because I'm learning that vlogs are not supposed to be that long. And so I just wanted to give you a snapshot of what I'm going to be talking about over the next probably week or two, just going through the story and how God blessed us and the difficulties that we had, but it was still an amazing trip, and I learned so much. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about the United States. I learned so much about Nigeria. I learned tons about my family, and I learned a ton about my husband. And so look forward to day 2.